Hi, you're welcome to the Live It Up podcast, a podcast on life lessons and survivorship with non-communicable diseases such as kidney disease, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and many more. And I'd like to let you know that this is the season finale, episode 10. And and our guests today are very, very, very interesting. But before we get into it, I'd like to let you know that this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation, the Uganda Cancer Institute, the Tribe UG, Afro and A-Class, and so many more. Who are not many more, but yeah. And my name is Brandy. And I'd like you to be part of this podcast, not only as a listener, but also as a sponsor, or donate a thing or two, a service or a toy, or for the kids to play and just be there and pass through their treatment smoothly. In the building today we have Trevor Mokole and Carol Kagezi. You guys are welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Trevor is a cultural producer, and then Carol is a cultural practitioner and a media producer. There's so much production in this end.
Yep.
Yeah. And today we're going to be discussing the role of art in cancer care. Art is so wide and so fruitful and so good and appealing to the human being. And let's get into it. You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
How can we use, before we even go far, how can we use arts to improve cancer care? And I'm going to start with you, Sam.
I mean, you can look at art as a tool for various things.
Yeah.
You can look at it as a product to sell for a market, as a financial tool. Or you can look at it for what it really is. Art is a tool for healing and for building communities. And for me as a cultural producer, my role is to connect audiences to artists who are producing in ways that are relevant to the audiences and to the artists that's producing. So art can be used to improve cancer care, because as we know, cancer is a disease that comes with a lot of chronic pain. And if you're facing pain that you cannot run away from its infliction, you need a way, you need an outlet in which to help cope with it and digest it. And this is where art comes in. And I saw this in the art therapy session we ran as VodoArts Labs here at UCCF. For those who don't know VodoArts Society, it's a collective of artists and cultural practitioners that work together. And we had a session here at the Children's Ward at the Uganda Cancer Institute, where the artists in the collective worked with children who are undergoing treatment, and we had an art therapy session. And in this session we had the kids come out and tell their dreams and aspirations to these artists, who helped them translate these into these paintings. And you could see the connection the kids had with the artists. I personally was involved, and I worked with a child. She was called Penina. She passed away. Also rest in peace. And she has to come out of surgery, but you could see that she went through this pain, and she studied to do this painting, and we spent 45 minutes on it. And it was special because you could see the bond I had with this I would say stranger. I'd never met this child, but by the time the session was done, we had built some sort of connection through the art. And this is how art can be used for cancer care. Art can help cancer patients cope with a chronic pain. Art gives them a psychological release and a creative expression for them to feel like there is a sort of world outside their hospital, which they're confined in, the space they're confined in, and some sort of beauty that can be strived for regardless of their pain they're going through.
Thank you very much. That's so cool. The art therapy sessions were really nice. The kids talked about them the whole time. Yeah. And I want to ask this question to Carol.
Okay.
Our media producer, in fact, now guru.
Hey.
How do we get everyone to participate in raising awareness on childhood cancers?
Well, I think that, Brandy, one of the things that I've come to realize is that once you're not directly affected by something, it does not feature as a priority in terms of things that you address or things that that you care about, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I think that one of the things that we can do proactively is, first of all, take the stories out there. I like how Trevor speaks of Penina.
Yeah.
I didn't meet Penina personally,
Yeah.
but when Trevor speaks of her, it just makes me so sad because Penina looked like she was about 4, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
And because I know Trevor and I know how her loss impacted Trevor, even after just one encounter, I'm more inclined to give and to be more participatory in terms of taking the message about childhood cancer. So I think that a lot of times we need to find ways to speak of things like these, right? So these diseases that you were speaking about, I mean, childhood cancer, you spoke about so many other diseases as well in your introduction.
Yeah.
But things like these, we need to be able to take them to spaces where people are and enable them to confront them and deal with them. Now, because I mentioned Penina's age because there's so many people out there who've got children who are between 4 and 6 years old, right?
True.
And so they can be able to relate to this story solely because when they see their child, they might think about Penina.
Yeah.
And it could be their child, like it could be their child, right?
Yeah.
So then it moves them to a place where they want to know more about the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation, but also to come visit the facility as well and understand what it is and their role that they play in that particular space.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a space like Butabika, for example. The children's unit is one of the brightest and the one ward that's actually painted.
Yeah.
It's not people who didn't know about it didn't go there and paint it, right?
Yeah.
But they went there because they had an understanding of it could be my child, it could be my niece, it could be, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
So go in and play your part.
True.
These things are not things that individuals should experience on their own.
Yeah.
So the more we speak about them and not look at them as a taboo, as we have come to become in the African context, Uganda particularly, there's a lot of secrecy around a lot of things, right? Because people might think that you're a burden or, but once we're able to break those barriers, then we're drawing in new audiences, but also new participants in the kind of work we're doing.
Yeah. That's on point. That's true. The paintings that were done by the VodoArts Society and the children, we had a dinner called the Be My Cancer Hero fundraising dinner. And we were able to sell these paintings on that day. I think this was 4th December. And
through auction.
Yeah, I was coming.
It's because he was the auctioneer.
Yeah, guys. The auctioneer was Trevor. Yeah, but also when we were organizing in the morning, that's when he found out that Penina had passed, and we had to take a moment, but it was worth it because then the whole event was worth it because then we got to raise. Mr. Auctioneer, please tell us.
Raise 4.1 million Ugandan shillings.
Yo.
Thank you to all the bidders out there.
Yeah. And thank you to people like Carol who are still paying for their painting after bidding a lot of money.
Yeah, but we sort of like circle back.
Yeah.
When we said that art can be used as a tool, as a financial tool,
but
also as a healing tool. So it exists in both spaces.
Yeah.
And so, like Carol said, we should be able to use the talents we have and the services we can provide to both heal and facilitate this work as a community.
Yeah.
Because we can think of an abstract institute out there with robots, but these are people actually out here doing this work.
Yeah.
And I feel as we can use our tools, our finances, our services, and our talents to uplift our communities and to heal. Yeah.
So what makes you want to work in this humanitarian relief sector, and why is it very important to you?
Yeah, I think we had this conversation earlier on. But as a cultural producer, sort of break it down for Podo and what cultural producers do.
Yeah.
So I curate, I write about artwork, I do studio visits, and I critique artists. But the whole gist of it is to make sure that art reaches the audiences that need it the most.
Yeah.
And that artists are creating from a place of relevance for the communities they live in.
Yeah.
Because like we said, art is a tool for healing and for connecting communities. So to me, such choosing to work in a humanitarian sector, everyone deserves culture is what they call a basic need. So everyone deserves culture, and most of the people are confined to spaces they can't live.
Yeah.
So as a cultural producer and person who works in programming, I have to be intentional about reaching out to people who need this art and make sure it gets to them. I don't have to sort of put up an exhibition somewhere in a corner in that area and say, if you can come. Yeah. So for me, it's not choosing to work in a humanitarian sector.
Shake the table, shake it.
It is about it's about really getting the people art to the people who need it them. So to me, it's not even choosing. Making it humanitarian would seem like I'm going out of my way to do these people a favor.
Like he has some free time.
Yeah, but I feel like the role of artists and the role of art is to heal communities and to connect audiences to each other's feelings. And this includes pain. And I think in sort of like feelings of loss and pain is where art is needed the most, to help people cope and go through it. So that they too may also create art if possible. So to me, it's not choosing to work in a humanitarian field. It's doing my job and making sure that there's equitable access to culture.
True. You're choosing to do your job and doing it well,
Right.
Because you see, why I asked is because so many times people who deal with artists, they are considered as celebrities of some stature. So their work, you have to find them to access their work. And when you find it, it's really expensive. It could be a concert, it could be a show, it could be anything, or even buying the painting itself. So to see that you guys came out of your comfort zone and came down, then I remembered Mulago was on a hill. So you came up and did this with the children. It brings joy. What exactly is art? Is it music? Is it acting? Is it playing? What is it exactly?
Art is creative expression, and whatever used to get that expression is the medium. So it might be music or painting or word. So an artist chooses a medium depending on your skills and capabilities. If you are very dexterous and you can use your hands, you can sculpt or paint. If you can use your words, you can become a poet or a novelist. If your voice is decent and you can play an instrument, you can be a musician. So you communicate these feelings and ideas through these mediums, but the ability for these ideas to connect feelings and people is what makes art. So when you see a painting, I like this painting, I don't know why, or a song that makes you feel happy. The song in itself is not the emotion, but it links you to the idea of what it means to be happy, or the idea of what it means to be sad. That's why you listen to Adele when they're broken your heart, and you listen to Teo Cruz when you're out with your friends. Because at the end of that day, it's about how that art form and that idea links to a certain emotion or feeling.
True.
So that is art. But the medium which it comes, it can be anything. So art is very many things. It's just various media. But the core concept of art is an idea that communicates a feeling and connects audiences.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes me relate. When you say feelings, more like art is what you make other people feel rather than what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or what you do to make other people feel things.
Yes, like how Lillian came and sang for the people on September Gold Month. So September is Childhood Cancer Month, and we had a celebration here at the ward. And the children and the parents of the children were very happy to see Lillian, the musician, and it was nice. There were feelings around the music and the performances and what. The doctors were able to come out of the ward and take like 5 minutes to see this person they see on TV. So when you also calm down and give people what they need, it is really amazing. Carol, you seem like you speak for many, so you would be the right person to ask this question. Why do you think the youth are so attracted to art?
I seem like I would speak for many.
Hey, we're about to call you MP very soon.
Ooh, let me first take a deep breath.
Yes, I agree.
I receive.
I don't know if I do.
Yeah.
But why do I think many young people are attracted to art? First and foremost, I don't know if the word that I would use is attracted solely because of how many quote-unquote barriers to entry there are to the art space. And I also say this in the form of mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so focused on surviving that sometimes art is looked at as a luxury. However, Trevor is going to respond to that in the opposite. And of course, that's very understandable because of course, like there's age between Trevor and I. I know I might like same age.
Glowing and what?
But age is definitely the one thing that informs my comment in that sense.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a lot of, perhaps now there's a lot more visibility regarding art. And I mean it in its various forms, because there's a sort of rebellion or revolution of young people wanting to be more communicative.
Yeah.
But also the internet has enabled a lot of these things to come out, so people can create their own spaces, their own platforms, in order to be expressive.
Yes.
Whether it's in poetry, whether it's in music, whether it's in whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? Like you can just have a microphone, even a lapel microphone, and record a song as long as you can make a beat. Right? That's in its most simplified sense.
You want to chill with the big boys.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So from my perspective, I would say that, you know, art gives people an avenue for outlet. However, I cannot for sure sit here and say, oh my gosh, so many young people are drawn to the arts. Also because I'm very aware of the socioeconomic differences that we live in. So
when you say attracted, it's sort of like words do not mean anything. You make it seem there are various alternatives, and they're like, let's do art. But there are no alternatives.
Yeah. There's
no single human being who can think outside their existence outside of art. It is impossible.
So even
some people whose tables are shaking. What?
Wait, what do you mean? So, okay. What?
It is impossible to codify your reality without some sort of image making.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, even the doctor has to see, even the engineer has to imagine before they...
But it's sort of like, it's not like for granted that you have to see, you have to imagine. You cannot express your emotion through reference.
Yeah.
Like at first that is language, but for that language to have any sort of aesthetic meaning which you want it to, you can only go through art.
Yeah.
So there's no pathway for human beings to express emotion at a significant and meaningful level, if not through art. Either their own or other people's art.
Yeah.
And we have this conversation, and we talked about this before the show went on. That there are some emotions that you want to express, but your words cannot.
Yeah.
You storm off in anger.
Yeah.
You sing that Paul Cafero song or whatever. But in the essence of it, art is also like a choice youth make. Like Carol said, right now it's just more visible because of first of all, the tools to produce it and the tools to distribute.
Yes.
So now even a guy from a shack in Lesotho can release a song and can be here in like 3 minutes. So it's
you want to chill with the big boys.
it's just more proliferated. Yeah. They don't choose to be more attracted. It's just that's life.
Yeah.
That's how human beings express themselves.
That's true. Because also I ask because people use music to communicate. They use paintings to communicate. They use all these movies. Have you watched this movie? If you watch this movie and you reach minute 50, then you'll know how I feel about you.
Yeah. Brandy, who told you this?
These guys are meta.
I feared.
Why did I even?
Hectic.
Let me move to the next question.
A walk to remember. It was so cool.
The notebook.
Yeah. So how can we use art as a healing tool?
But art is a healing tool.
Yeah, but how can we intentionally?
I feel like we have to be intentional.
Yeah.
With how we connect audiences. Yeah. I feel like art is a resource. We need to, as artists, as a community, sort of like, because there's pressure for artists to industrialize and make it commercial.
Yes.
But I feel artists should sort of like forget. I wouldn't say forget, but I would say for them to remember the core purpose of their art and what art is intended to do when they're producing it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could create a market around these things, but I think the desire to see it actually touch audiences and get that feedback from them should supersede our commercial desires and how to expand a market. Because I feel once we arrive at that, a market will grow organically.
Okay.
But for now, I want to sort of encourage artists, because art is what a healing tool.
Yeah.
I have to encourage artists, to encourage people who have talents in the arts to actively and intentionally seek out audiences that need these services and this tool and to reach out to them and to use it. Because art is already a healing tool.
Yeah.
But I feel like artists should more and more be active on deploying that tool to the audiences that need it the most.
Okay.
To volunteer.
Yeah. Let's go.
So I think as just to add on what Trevor has said.
In addition.
In addition to what Trevor just mentioned, For me, the thing that stands out is the relationship between the artist and the audience.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one of the things that I'm more curious about, or even like a lot more obsessive about, is the process of turning that emotion or that feeling or whatever it is that you want to communicate, the creativity within you, into something that can actually come out and be manifested, right? So it can be a song. How do you put words together in order to make a song? Is that something that you can invite people in and actually have them participate in that, right? And so just kind of thinking through, what does the programming look like? Because then if there's more people participating in the creation process, but also in these processes that have formerly been very individualized, then I think that it does take us a step further in terms of just making art more public, but also making it more accessible. I think a lot of people don't believe that they can do something artistic until they are actually invited into the process of making.
That's true. Yeah, they're like, oh, so I can actually be part of this. Yes. And also I feel like these people, the artists, have a lot of, they have big followings, they have big names, brand names attached to them and stuff, and then they have big talents, so they have big audiences. I also think them using this, for example, let's say one artist, Eziwe, if he decided to have like an art show, and on his art show he's able to get like different artists, musicians this time, just to perform at this show, and then he's able to also sell out at the show, then he's able to say part of this the proceeds go back to this. Or I want to give a minute or two to just talk about this that I've been working on. I was able to do ABC. I feel like we would go a long way. Yeah.
So definitely one of the things that we can proactively do is for us who have access to networks like those. And when I say us, like I'm removing myself, but including myself. Because I don't know who Eziwe, because the way you said Eziwe, I'm like, hey, you're friends.
A digital artist.
I also
like,
met
I don't know him personally.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But I think for people who have access to, rather let me put it like that, access to people who have massive followings like that, right? I think it's important that we encourage them, but also equip them with the knowledge that they need in order to be able to go out there and speak of it.
Absolutely.
In addition, like, I mean, I can say, I can make mention of your thing, right? But then if you invite me in and I know what actually it takes, right? Now, for example, as we're talking about childhood cancer, he came here, right?
Yes.
For the painting session,
for the art therapy session. Yes.
And I think that for somebody like that, it's quite clear to see.
Yeah.
So even when he speaks of it, he speaks from a point of actually interacting with someone like that and actually forming a relationship, of later being in an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, still formed a relationship with this child. So it's a lot easier for him to speak of because he's been in this space. But if we can't go and say, hey, can you talk about our thing? It has to be that.
So we have to like decide one day and say, you know what, Azawi, I want you to come and have lunch with the children on their break. And then from there it could lead to something. That's true. I'd never met Eziwe until the art therapy session.
VodoArts Lab and Society.
VodoArts Lab and Society brought us Trevor, it brought us you, and Eziwe's and so many other artists that participated that day. Shout out. We appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts.
Right.
Guys, people may think I'm actually just exaggerating. Trevor, who was on ground, as VodoArts, you guys did amazing pieces with these children. But tell us about the experience.
So
and start with the fact that you guys came 5 minutes late.
To the art therapy?
Hey.
No, he didn't come 5 minutes.
You see, he was there. He was the first guy. I was joking.
No, for me as a cultural producer, because my work is really abstract. I never really get to, because most of my work is strategy. So most of it's abstract, writing exhibition briefs, writing catalogs, writing critique, and academically roasting artists. But coming and working with the kids for something practical, because there you could see your audience, and you could see the feedback immediately. And for all the artists worked. I know all of them personally. Put them to work on this. I know Bob, I know Iva, I know Puto, I know Amala, I know Tristan, Zitoni, I know Easy, I know Namata, I know Mercy. So all these people came, and all of them were deeply impacted with working with their kids, because then you giving a cultural experience someone who needs it is a bit different.
Yeah.
Because in the industry working, we're oversaturated with images and image making. So at a certain point, I would say you get jaded. But working with the kids, it was refreshing to see that these people actually needed this service. These kids needed this creative outlet.
Yeah.
Because for them, it wasn't more of a creative luxury.
Yeah.
Or a cultural sort of like encounter.
Yeah.
It was a necessity. It was in a sense dialed down to what they needed at that moment.
Yeah.
It was a coping mechanism.
True.
And art became a tool applied right there.
Yeah.
So for us, it was really impactful. I would say, I can speak for the whole of VodoArts Lab and Society.
Yeah.
Because we keep on talking about the impact that these kids had on us as artists and on the artists' work, but also seeing it in their lives immediately there. Because for the kids who could communicate, you could see the enthusiasm they had for the art therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And it now got us thinking to, how can we make this better for these children?
Yeah.
Because they clearly, and consistent. It's not good to come once and then burst.
One hit wonder.
Oh my goodness! Check the table.
Yeah. So it was a really deeply impactful process.
Yeah.
Mainly before seeing the feedback from the children on how they reacted to the therapy session.
Yeah.
And it was really nice.
I think it was really, really nice. And Madame, for you, I know you were at the fundraising dinner and you were able to purchase a painting.
Right.
What led you to that point in time? Walk us through your experience into making that decision.
#, support living artists.
First and foremost, let's start
End the era of broke artists.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things that I'm a strong believer in is that if we're gonna support the arts industry, we might as well be active participants in the art industry, and that's social, that's economic, psychological, at every stage, just being a present participant in the art economy.
Yeah.
And so for me, sitting there, I think my thought process was, first and foremost, I wasn't just going to buy any painting. I wanted one with a sunset.
Yeah.
But then I think also really interesting is that I didn't buy it for myself. It's a painting that I bought to be in the children's cancer ward.
Yeah.
Because then it has a home and there's a human being living in that space.
Yeah.
And who actually participated in putting this together.
Yeah.
And so I wanted them to be able to look at it and just hold on to it, right? Because that's a memory that was made possible through an encounter.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, one of the things was I have a tithe quota.
Child of God.
I have a tithe quota.
Yeah.
And we're constantly encouraged to give. So for me, that was the first loop. And I was like, okay. So then the next one was, how then do we put money into this space in a way that is not coming off as quote unquote a handout, but also that's going forward to something that's actually going to be beneficial to not just one person, but an entire community of people.
True.
And so that really was my thought process. And one thing that I would invite a lot of my peers to do, and I think that I do this quite actively on my social media, is to be an advocate for the arts and advocate for people actually buying into it and actually purchasing, because at the end of the day, one, you're supporting living artists, but also most importantly for art pieces that are attached to causes such as this, it's literally going into something that will be beneficial to not one person but an entire collective of people. And why not make life easier? Cancer is an expensive disease.
True.
It's extremely expensive. Now imagine at a public funds level, right? It's already expensive. Then come down to households. How are households actually dealing with this, especially in those spaces that are actually quite below the line, right? So how are they dealing with it? We might as well alleviate that and make possible treatments here, but also comfortable living spaces for the young children, especially at the ward, to be able to just feel human, right? It's humanizing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Sometimes I meet them in the corridor and I start playing like small karate games. Because again, I feel like everyone is already, some people are already making it hard when they're just trying to. Because we had one of the parents talk about how it's easy for them when they're at the ward.
Yeah.
But then when they go back into communities, then there are people picking on these kids for having a bald head or for have not been at school last term. Yeah, stuff like that. So I feel you. And also the part of support living artists, it makes a lot of sense.
High key.
Oh my goodness. And that, because most of the paintings were sold. Most of the paintings that were sold at great prices.
Yeah.
But the people like, even in museums, those paintings of the people who are not living anymore are sold.
And people are still fighting for them.
I mean, we cannot sort of like, the value of those paintings exists.
Yes. Of course.
We're not debating that.
Yeah.
But our sort of like conclusion to this very touchy topic of art financing is support living artists. Because I think it sort of like increases cultural production in your era.
Yeah.
And you see more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if your artist is not starving, they have enough time to kick out a painting or two.
True.
For the benefit of everyone.
And you know what? I think one of the things that we barely highlight is that once there is visibility of artists being able to make money, right? It gives permission to other closeted artists to be visible with their practice.
Yeah.
And that, in essence, builds our ecosystem.
Man, for the artists out there, I make so much money. Join us.
But it does build the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that means in terms of investment, a lot more people want to invest in it because they see that there's activity within the space. But the more that we keep in the shadows, then it's a lot harder to even track and see and follow the money. But once you're visible.
Yeah, and also, man, if you don't invest in the artists, how are they going to do all these things you're telling them to do for cancer care?
Right, I know, right?
That's on period. Let's move to the next one. Can every child partake in these art sessions?
I mean, we're sort of this was our first art therapy session, and we are now programming it, sort of figuring out the logistics of how we can do it recurrently. For now, we would like to focus on children in the Uganda Cancer Child Foundation.
Yeah.
But we want to expand. There is a plan to expand these art therapy sessions as Vodo expands both space-wise with infrastructure, be able to host people and have these sessions. Yeah. We want to do more and more of this, even for adults, to touch upon mental health and interact with it using art. Yeah. Because I wouldn't say there's a gap there. Yeah. I just want to be more intentional about how we could merge that to help people cope. Yeah. Yeah. I don't say it's a definite yes. Yeah. But we are working towards expanding our scope of art therapy. Yeah. And yes, other children will be able to participate as we grow our infrastructure to be able to accommodate them.
True, and it would be nice to have it for the kids battling cancer, for kids battling autism, literacy, etc.
For all the kids.
For all the children.
Yes. Yeah, as we grow our infrastructure, our programming is, like as a cultural producer, is reach more and more audiences. Okay. Yeah, so we will reach other kids. Stay patient. We are coming.
Okay, what is your, when you deal with cross-cutting issues, you find yourself in situations of trauma, or you may not be the person in the position of trauma, but you witness people going through trauma and conflict and having all these questions in their minds. But because it's an artist, I want us to agree, all of us, that it's an artist's gift to be able to see through people.
Partly.
Do we agree?
Partly.
Yeah.
Okay. Partly. Well, that was part one. That one we are agreeing. But now the question is, how do you cope with this, and how do you decompress?
Right.
After returning home.
I think that first and foremost, to be able to identify or recognize trauma in people means that you've been able to see it in yourself first.
Yes.
Life in and of itself, I constantly say, is a series of traumatic events. Yeah. Even at the very beginning, our entrance into the world is traumatizing.
Into crying.
Not even just crying. Like even if it's a natural birth, C-section, it's violent. Yeah. How we come into this earth. Yeah. So that already sets the precedent for how you're gonna live life, right? Yeah. No matter how you live, no matter what space of the world that you live in. Yeah. There's gonna be a time when you experience series of traumas.
Yeah.
And so to be able to recognize that in yourself means that you can see it in somebody else.
Yeah.
And so then that creates the point of connection.
Yeah.
And once you step away from that connection, I think it's important that you fill up your cup once again.
True.
Because sometimes it just seems like we bleed on each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we bleed on each other because of how we kind of share trauma, and sometimes we walk away from it and act like we didn't just share that kind of trauma.
Yeah.
So it's important to always go back and undress yourself of trauma that you have experienced or won from spaces.
Yeah.
And so for me, walking into Mulago, for me this afternoon, I think it was very triggering of like my first trauma, which is my dad died from cancer actually. And I hadn't been back here since even like it was just the beginning of the millennium, 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And so just thinking through that and walking through this space and looking at what the structures look like and what the structures hold mean that for me it's triggering, but then at the same time I need to find ways of being able to hold those experiences and not let them create or burrow holes inside of me, even when I leave.
True.
Right?
True.
So it starts from recognizing that that's a hard place.
Yeah.
But once I walk out of it, I'm cognizant of the people that I leave there.
Yeah.
I wish them well.
Yes.
And so let me do everything that I can in my power to make possible dreams for them. Right?
Yeah.
Because that space holds something for me. And so I think that's possibly one of the ways, you undress yourself a bit and you say, I'm doing the best that I can. And the best that I can is that. And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay, yes. That's so cool.
And not to laugh about this by downplaying this, but my friend Carol here knows me a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, dealing with trauma early on, I'm going to be quite direct with you, not abstract.
Yeah.
Go through drugs, and I could do lots of drugs.
Yeah.
Then that's like a tenable strategy
Yeah.
in the long term, because as drugs you can't keep it up for as long. But it means that you need psychological interventions,
Yeah.
and that there are people who know what they are doing,
Yeah.
who will help you when you need help.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot be self-contained. There are people whose specialty out there is to help you cope with these traumas and help you cope with these experiences.
Yeah.
And then you have to be more open. For me, it has just been being more open towards being fixed mentally.
Yeah.
But I think, and as a country, as a generation, we are so prone to fixing things ourselves. As you can see, using drugs as sort of like increase as a way of dealing. Alcohol is drugs. Just sort of like rub them together, and it's another drug. But I feel like for me, it has been being more open to being mentally repaired.
Yeah.
Because people have been raised with that some sort of self-reliance, which is all surrounding. And to be an adult, you must be able to take care of yourself. But you're vulnerable in other parts of yourself.
Yeah.
So being more open to being fixed, to being guided, is how I deal with this, because sometimes I don't have the tools to cope with my own trauma and these experiences.
Yeah.
I have the tools, but I don't use those tools.
You need to be guided.
You need to be guided. Drugs are great in the short term, but it's not a tenable strategy.
Yeah.
And then there are ways you can work.
They kill your art and keep you bored.
I mean, it can make your art better for a short time.
Yeah.
But there are more tenable strategies in making sure you have a more healthy career.
Sustainable.
A more wholesome career. So to me, has been being more open.
Yeah.
To being mentally repaired. To being guided, and how to focus my attention, and how to deal with these experiences.
Yeah,
that's how I sort of like decompress, and I talk about them with my friends.
Yeah,
and that mental ability to be open, a mental sort of process of being healed, I think has worked for me more.
I'm glad. I am actually very glad. You guys have serious English, by the way. As we move forward,
I mean, we're like cultural practitioners and producers.
Now it's
Come on,
sense.
man.
It's making sense, guys. It's
authenticity to the ecosystem.
Oh my goodness. Moving on. What is your greatest professional achievement in this field?
I feel like that question sort of like sits sets me up in a way.
Oh, it just sets the tone for how it should be responded to. But interesting is that Trevor and I actually looked at that question before we started the interview, and we're kind of like, why would you say
You want to say something that will inspire parents if their kids be artists? We don't want to overflex.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be like, what has been your greatest professional accomplishment? Today let's talk about them. Let people know.
Yes. Your next employer, boss
might
man,
be listening.
All the people who give out the Grammys for Person of the Year.
Well, I can't say that I have any of my greatest professional accomplishments right now, solely because I constantly feel like I'm at the beginning.
Yeah.
For like the past 6-7 years, I felt like I'm at the beginning.
Look at how Trevor is looking at you.
I felt like I'm at the beginning.
Yeah.
And maybe if I think as a professional achievement, maybe, and it's not so public. I guess when you structure it like that, it seems so grand and robust and what. But I think for me, one of my greatest professional achievements has been actually working with Trevor, and you kind of like pushing him to just think outside the box.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
But also watching him grow as a curator, because for me, one of the things has been, how do we get Trevor to do what he says he wants to do?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's by enabling.
Yeah.
So I think that would be like one of my
enabling in the right ways.
Yeah, of course. Enabling in the right ways, we have to make that clear. But I think, just first of all, enabling.
I've like so many bad habits.
Yeah.
And when they say enabling, they don't enable those which they know, so they enable me in the right ways.
Yeah, but I like how she's saying, how do we help him do what he wants to do and do it right?
That's the one thing that I can say. I don't know if the other things I can call them achievements, because I've started things and closed things, and but the thing that I can be the proudest of right now is just being able to, first of all, listen to Trevor.
Okay.
Because he works so I'm actually like Trevor's immediate, supervisor.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I'm constantly asking myself in the morning, how can I be in service to Trevor? Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I used to ask him in the beginning. I'll be like, hey, Trevor, how can I be of service to you?
Yeah.
And I think just him being able to freely speak with me about, hey, I'm thinking about doing 1, 2, 3 things.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Does it work? What direction will make sense?
Yeah.
And I say this because he's laying the groundwork for very important work. Yeah. And for a very grand direction.
Yeah.
And so for him to be enabled to be able to think as vastly as possible, for me, it makes me sleep at night and be okay.
Yeah, Trevor, allow. And actually, I was about to make like funny jokes about this, but the truth is, when you actually kept thinking about it, I have, in the few jobs I do, I have someone who does that for me. She's always like, how can I be self-service? How can I help? How can I make it easier for your work, for you to do your work? Yeah. And she still continues to do her work. Yeah. So it's a great joy. Yeah. Trevor, don't take this for granted. I hope you don't.
I'm sort of like overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
But I would say for me, my sort of like having a space for this year.
Yeah.
Working with a team at Motive.
Yeah.
Sort of put me in my first real responsibility of strategy.
Yeah.
Like my real first strategy job as far as cultural producing is concerned.
Yeah.
So having a program to run, being accountable for artists.
Yeah.
And having a bit of resource to distribute.
Yeah.
Has been my major up to now, because I've just started.
Yeah.
So quite young in the industry. But being in the position to actually make things happen and learning those processes. Yeah. To me, has been my first exposure professionally to the art world. Yeah. This is my entry. Achievement.
So
experience Mark 1.
Yeah. Mapping exercise complete.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Trevor wins, I win.
Yeah, when you're
it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Me really, I would just say it's the podcast. Really, I'm happy that I've just been able to create a platform where we can have stories like this and these conversations and move an agenda.
Yeah.
One more question. Who are your role models? Trevor, for you, it's Carol.
Carol.
Trevor, it better be.
Yeah, I've had very many people who have mentored me in my career. Pamela, Inonu, Robina, Nansubuga. I feel like I see their practices and they're authentic about how they go about them. They're like, we're not saying we have all the answers, but this is what we know so far. This is what you can go on. So I've been lucky. I've learned most of the things that I've learned through interacting with these women. It has been good feedback because they give me their time and they give me the experience, which then I use to sort of like further my career a bit.
True.
Through learning from
You didn't even mention me in that list.
I said
you
first. I said Carol. Then I said though.
I'm kidding.
Huh?
I'm just messing.
Carol is just here to mess with you.
No one likes a clingy role model.
And also, man, you just give us your mentors. So your role models, the people you want to be like.
I wouldn't be mentored by someone I don't respect as a role model.
I told you the English in circulation today is just.
I feel like
too hectic.
I feel like when I say mentors, it denotes a role model.
Okay. I've learned something also. Thank you.
Welcome.
My role models. Wow, that's. I'm shuffling through my brain. Because there's so many. But I think the ones that I can hold on to right now, to respond to your question, are one, Oprah.
True.
I love Oprah. I loved how she did her shows. I love how it translated into television, and from like being a producer, then her getting onto screen, and then also now becoming a podcaster. I think for me it's just like
and
one
her
of the
book clubs and
I just love how versatile she is as a
and
media
shaking
producer.
the monarchy.
Exactly.
And the generational wealth.
Yeah, of course, that's a bonus. Hello, rich auntie vibes. I think I know for sure my second role model is my late mother, John Kagezi.
Yeah.
And for me, it's in the way she treated people. That I see up until this day, you know, as a consequence of. And for me, it's also how brave she was to go out and do her job every single day.
Every other day.
So for me, even as I think about life on a daily basis, it is how do I stay true to the person to whom I belonged second in this life. How do I stay true to their whatever it is they taught me, and and how I was nurtured, and in a lot of ways there's that mimicking.
True.
So I take that into all things that I do. I take that into my work. I take that into my friendships. I take that into several other relationships. Because at the end of the day, I feel like she was a very close by or nearby embodiment of authenticity. And so constantly I'm asking myself, how do I carry that and how do I take it into public spaces?
You're so awesome.
Oh,
we were at a conference and she was presenting and I was like,
Stop it. Stop.
And may she continue to rest in peace. Any final comments, guys? This is the part where you're Oprah now, where you inspire the young people.
Will allow me to flick my hair.
There you go.
I think final comments from my side would be to live authentically is the most freeing thing. And so I think we should all allow ourselves to be artists.
Yes.
It's one of the most authentic ways to live.
If you were holding Trevor's mic, you'd
I'll
be like,
dropping
mic
it,
drop.
But Trevor, don't drop the mic.
I'll not drop the mic.
Trevor, yes.
So for me, since I sit through the lens of the industry, I just want to encourage artists as we build towards commercialization and building an art industry, not to forget the core purpose of how art could be used to serve our community. Because I see this in the visual arts where we are striving to reach international markets. If you're selling for hundreds of thousands of US dollars, we have so much money. We have Porsches now, and it's so cool.
Will our roads take those?
But I feel like, and it's really tricky for artists because artists say we can't work for exposure. We have suffered for so long. But I feel like for artists who have the resources to direct their time, people who don't necessarily have the resources to access their work, I feel like they should. I would encourage them to do that. To devote their resources to help people have equitable access to cultural experiences. Because I feel like it's an ecosystem where we have various stakeholders sort of like helping us go along. And if your art has reached a point of sustainability, I urge you to share it with other people, because people need art out here.
True.
There are audiences out there that need these experiences, and please share them with these audiences and be generous.
Yeah. Be generous and PC.
Peace.
Yeah.
Don't drop the mic.
Don't.
We're still rolling.
Guys, so every time we have a guest on the podcast, we urge them to tell us an activity we can indulge in within the week to keep healthy and stay in the right mind space. So what activity? One.
On a Friday evening, at exactly 6,
yes,
you'll be at home. Listen to Vivaldi's 4 Seasons.
Vivaldi's 4 Seasons.
Some classical music.
Oh,
it's good for your soul.
Okay.
Vivaldi, there are 4 seasons. Winter is my favorite because like he goes really wild, but all the 4 seasons are pretty great. So there are 4 seasons like this classical music piece by Vivaldi.
Yeah.
And he plays a different concerto for each season, for spring, winter, summer, and fall.
Trevor is one of the most cultured people that
I
you're
wouldn't
going to
say
find.
most
Come on,
cultured,
guys,
but
when you guys say cultured, the first time I was like, these guys are what? From the traditional era?
Cultured.
Now I'm hearing it.
You're hearing it coming out.
Now it makes sense when I see people saying the hip-hop culture, the what? Now I know what culture we're dealing with right here, right now.
Yo. Oh my goodness.
Alright, just give us your activity and we get out of here.
I think my activity would be do something you like every single day and do it again.
Yeah.
Each and every single day. Do that one thing that you like.
that is a very problematic advice.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, like, you can do something that you like every single day, even if it's just taking a nap for 5 minutes.
Yeah, because
right?
provided you stay healthy
Yeah.
and in the right
within bounds.
Yeah, do something you like. Or maybe, rather, do something for the first time every day. Oh, but that's very... we need to contextualize. Do something... Edit it out. Do something...
Okay, within bounds of self-preservation
Of course.
and mutual benefit for
Of course.
community members.
Like you can bake, try and make a candle, try and make a sponge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
Well, yeah.
that's the stuff I mean.
Okay, you guys, you're the one. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have come to the end of this podcast. Yeah, I'm the one, yeah. But what, we are not done. So we have a joke of the day. Who's going to answer it?
Trevor, obviously.
Your mentor, stroke role model has sent you. So
Okay, we can both give it a try.
Okay, so what lights up a soccer stadium?
I feel like I know, but I feel like this is like dad joke extraordinaire. But first, take a shot at it and see.
I really love dad jokes.
If you feel this one, I'll be very disappointed.
Please don't be, because I'm about to ace it.
Okay.
A soccer match.
Oh yeah, okay.
It is. Okay, even a blind man could say one coming.
It is.
You know
what it is.
Yeah, next time. Oh my God, wait, this is the season finale. Next season, I'm gonna come with harder jokes, hard jokes.
Yeah, right.
But yes, a soccer match, guys. This has really been nice. Thank you for coming.
This has been nice. Thanks for having us.
So share your handles quickly.
Wow, I didn't expect that. Trevor, you first.
I feel like mine is sort of difficult to put phonetically, so they'll put it somewhere on the screen there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think
Button
mine
and
is...
socks.
Yeah, buttons and socks.
Oh, yeah.
Please don't ask the genesis, guys. But I'm leaving it as it is.
Yes, on Twitter it's buttons and socks.
Yeah, on Facebook I mean Carol Kakezi, but who goes there anymore? I just have a home.
Please, I know we're out of time, but please don't search me on Facebook. You'll see me from 5 years back.
Oh my God.
Today I say memory on Facebook, and I was like, no.
And to hear this was you 5 years ago.
Delete.
Guys, we need to come to the end of this. This season has been fantastic. This episode has been great, and we are very, very, very happy and proud. And thank you for listening to the Live It Up podcast. Thank you for loving it and supporting it till this day. And as other people sent their advice, this is mine as we close. The grass ain't greener on the other side. It's only greener where you water it. And then you need to be present and then love as long as you live. We have been the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation, the Uganda Cancer Institute, the Tribe UG. The socials are just below on the screen. And I have been your host, the one and only Brandy Valentine Azirwe. And I'd like to peace out and say Rukunde Gumeho. Bye.